So let's wrap up a couple more ideas about Islam to start off this video. Um, because it is such a universalizing religion, Islam was embraced by many different governments over the course of world history. Muhammad wasn't just a religious founder, he was also a political leader and a military genius. So Islam will be the faith of his state. Then you're going to have his successors, the four rightly guided caliphs. There's going to be a lot of infighting about who should succeed Muhammad, because when he died, it was really unexpected. He hadn't picked an heir. He didn't have a son. So it's kind of a mess. Then we get an Umayyad caliphate until the mid 700s. They're replaced by the Abbasid caliphate. And that's actually the caliphate that is still in power when our course starts in 1200. So in our next lesson, the Abbasid Caliphate will be one of the empires of the post-classical era that you will get to investigate. Besides the Abbasids using it, we're also going to see in the early modern era, 1450 to 1750, the three gunpowder empires will use Islam as a way to legitimize their rule. And that'll be the Ottomans, the Safavids, and the Mughals. But when Muhammad died, you see this schism, this breakup in Islam. And that is because there was a disagreement about who should be his heir. And so on one side, you have Sunni Muslims that say, you know what, we can have someone who is not a blood descendant of Muhammad as our ruler, as long as they rule in his example. Then on the other hand, you had Shia Muslims who said, nope, it needs to be someone who can trace their lineage back to Muhammad through his son-in-law, Ali. And so when we get to the gunpowder empires, the Ottomans and the Mughals are Sunni, but the Safavid are Shia, and the Shia are sandwiched in between the Ottoman and the Mughal. And this isn't just like okay, well, I'm this denomination and you're that denomination, so we might go to different churches on Sunday. This actually became such a big schism that the Ottomans and Safavids were constantly at war with each other, calling each other heretics, saying that each empire was blasphemous for their practice of the opposite form of Islam. So keep that in mind as we continue through our review leading up to the May 21st exam. Islam is going to be used by a lot of different governments to help bring society together. We also know that Islam spreads like crazy. In fact, even to today, Islam is the fastest growing religion on the planet. After it's founded in the early post-classical era, it was spread primarily by merchants. Muhammad himself had a reputation before he founded Islam as being a very trustworthy merchant. That was one thing that helped him to spread his new faith so quickly in the face of long-lasting polytheistic traditions in the area. He was known as someone that you could trust. And so because he was a merchant, he said it was okay for merchants to practice his religion. He just wanted them to make sure that they were being honest and trustworthy with their customers as well. And so think about it like this. If I am a Muslim merchant from the Arabian Peninsula, I'm going to travel maybe all over the Indian Ocean, maybe to East Africa or to Southeast Asia. Maybe I'm going to travel on the Silk Roads to Central Asia. Maybe I'm going to cross the Sahara Desert and go to the sub-Saharan West African kingdom of Mali. But when I travel for trade, I still want to be able to practice my faith. And so these merchants become missionaries too. They spread their faith. And so when we talk about trade in a soon upcoming review lesson, we'll talk a little bit more about how these Muslim merchants spread their faith. But what we see is the foundation of Dar al-Islam, the house of Islam, the lands where Islam is practiced. And guys, it is like all over parts of the Eastern Hemisphere, Africa, the Middle East, Central Asia, East Asia, South Asia, Southeast Asia. We're going to see this religion go anywhere that trade is going because it's universal and it spreads really easily on these trade networks. Now, the next thing I want to talk to you about is a really important vocabulary word, syncretism. Something that is syncretic is a blending. It represents cultural diffusion and its outcomes, bringing different things together. So one syncretism that we talked about this year is the language and culture of the east coast of Africa, Swahili. So the traditional native indigenous languages of Africa come from the Bantu language family. but a bunch of Muslim merchants who spoke Arabic were coming from the Middle East to East Africa for trade. And so those Bantu languages and that Arabic language blended together to create Swahili. But it's not just languages that can be syncretic, so too can belief systems. One that I want to teach you or review with you about now is Vodun. Maybe you've heard it called voodoo before in the past. Vodun is a syncretic religion that blends together African traditions and Christianity. Vodun originated on the island that we today call Haiti, and it is a product of the Atlantic slave trade. As Africans were being kidnapped and forced across the Middle Passage, across the Atlantic Ocean, when they wound up in this Caribbean environment of Haiti, their slave owners wanted to convert them to Christianity as a way to make it easier to control them, right? If you can convince them to convert to Christianity and buy into the parts of Christianity that says that slaves should obey their masters, then maybe these slaves won't revolt or resist. Maybe they'll just work. And so Vodun incorporates African practices with Christianity. Another example of East meets West that emerges after we see the bringing together of both hemispheres for a global economy would be the syncretism of Catholicism and traditional practices of Native Americans. So we'll see these traditions emerge throughout Latin America. So we see quite a bit of syncretism between Old World and New World when it comes to religion. If we stay just in the Eastern Hemisphere, a syncretic religion to talk about would be Sikhism. So we're going to see the arrival of Muslim rulers in South Asia, in India, beginning with the Delhi Sultanate early in the post-classical era, and then eventually the Mughal dynasty will be founded in India in the 1500s. The Mughal were Sunni Muslim rulers, but they ruled over a Hindu population in India. So Sikhism was founded before the Mughal actually even got started by a guru named Nanak. And what he tried to do was blend elements of Hinduism and Islam together to kind of create this bridge between the different religions of Hinduism and Islam. Now, Guru Nanak was not the only one with this idea. Akbar the Great is arguably the best, most successful Mughal ruler. He also created something called the Divine Faith, where he too tried to blend Hinduism and Islam together. Akbar is called the Great because of his religious tolerance. He would spend time in the company of scholars from many different religions, trying to find a way to bring his subjects together peacefully. Now, 2 generations later, his grandson, Aurangzeb, was like the opposite. He's like Aurangzeb the worst because he tried to violently persecute Hinduism in India, which is like the dumbest thing you could do because it had been around for thousands of years. And so his bad decision here really weakens Mughal rule at a really bad time, because when Aurangzeb is making these bad decisions, European explorers are like, hey, let me come to India and buy cool stuff. So we'll, of course, talk more about British imperialism in India in the coming weeks before your exam. But anytime, this is something you'll see over and over in world history, anytime a ruler or a government says, let me persecute belief systems that are different than my own, it's going to spell trouble. Even if they're trying to bring everybody together in the same faith, when you tell someone, I'm going to take your faith away and make you embrace this other one instead, it's not going to go well, because faith is really important to human beings. Believing in something or believing that there is nothing to believe in, wherever a person falls in that spectrum, that's a really personal decision and personal belief. And so when a government says, let me go after that, doesn't bode well for the stability of that government. Okay, so man, I've been talking for a long time, so let me break down what you're going to do next. To get attendance credit today, you are going to complete a Google form that I have posted in Classroom for you to do. If you've been paying attention, maybe taking some notes during this little lecture, you should knock that Google form out with flying colors. The last question on the form is going to be worth assisted points. I want you to do some thesis writing practice. You remember last week we talked about the change to the DBQ. We've only got 5 documents now. So a thesis paragraph is going to restate the prompt in the first sentence, give me an argument in the second sentence, and give me another argument in the third sentence, and then you're done, right? That's going to be your outline for your body paragraphs too. So what I want you to do today is, no, there are no documents. I'm not going to make you do documents, but I want to give you a prompt based on what we've talked about today. And I want you to write me in that last question in the Google form, your 3-sentence thesis paragraph. And I'll give you feedback on it. I just want to make sure that every day for the rest of our weird school year, you're practicing some DBQ skills. So today we're practicing the skill of thesis writing. Here's your practice prompt. Evaluate the extent to which the belief systems of Buddhism and Islam were similar. Now, since we only have 2 arguments, go ahead and just give me 2 similarities, 2 different similarities for your 2 arguments. Make sure you're being specific and put that into your thesis paragraph. Okay, and I'll give you some feedback on that. I know if this were like the normal DBQ, you'd give me 2 similarities and 1 difference, but this is not the normal DBQ anymore. So feel free to just give me 2 similarities in your practice thesis paragraph. If you can't think of 2 similarities, then okay, 1 sim and 1 diff would be fine too. Now, I have heard from some students that, listen, I know this exam has changed and I know it's not what we expected, but I still really want to pass it. I still really have my heart set on a 3, 4, 5. I've even heard from some students that have said, I still want a 5. I'm going for that 5 on this 10-point rubric. So what I wanted to give you is some additional and optional readings that you could look at. Now, the blue link here, I've taken screenshots of the 2020 Princeton Review where they cover just the religions that are major players by 1200. I think if you read that and take notes over it, or even just read it, it could be hugely helpful to you. The red link is from an older Princeton Review, back when our course used to start with the birth of farming. And so it's going to cover more belief systems than the College Board is going to ask you about. But if this is just something that you're really interested in, you might read the red link, okay? The blue would be really good practice for the AP exam, really good review. The red link would be a little more than what you really need, but if you really are interested in belief systems, you might enjoy reading it. Okay, so that's it for today. Make sure you get that Google form done for attendance and give me your best shot on that thesis practice for an assisted grade. And I will see you guys again in a couple of days. Thanks. Bye.